In this video, we're going to go over the reasons why the British Empire abolished slavery in the West Indies and where they actually got the money to pay to the slave owners to end this. Let's find out. What happened was there was a lot of competition from Portugal, the Netherlands, and Spain, France, using slavery to surpass Britain. So, in order to stop them from doing this, Britain passed this act, and of course they did it, and so everybody else would have to follow along. But the question is, though, is why they did it and the financial way they did it. First of all, we look at the date of the act, 1834. Okay? Now, on August 1, they passed the Slavery Abolition Act. However, it says throughout its colonies around the world. That was very bogus because right after this Slavery Abolition Act was passed, this happened. And you can read this yourself. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but let's just say that Britain didn't need the slaves anymore in the West Indies because now they had a massive opium trade going on in Asia. Of course, China was having a lot of problems with this because they didn't want their people to be doped up all the time, and they started to abolish this in their territories. So what happened with Britain is we got the Opium Wars. So I'm going to go right to the end of this, or the first Opium War, so you can see exactly how Britain paid to the slave owners for the Slavery Abolition Act. We look at the end of the first war, first Opium War with China, and understand how this was achieved. Now, this was the payment, supposedly at that time, that was made to the slave owners, 20 million pounds. Now, let's take a look at the first Opium War, and it was with China. And how much did China have to pay Britain? There we go. Now, as a result of this war, of course, Britain, Hong Kong, we know that already. That's very deep history already with that. Anyways, and treaty ports open to Western traders, Shanghai and the other ones. Now, here is the really sketchy part. The treaty also stipulated that China would pay a $21 million payment to Britain as reparations for the destroyed opium, with $6 million to be paid immediately, and the rest specified installments thereafter. Okay, now let's just understand this for a second here. Okay, now the date of this is very, very important because that payment that Britain made to the slave owners, they did not want to do it themselves. They were going to get it from someone, and they did. They got it from China. So the Chinese paid to the slave owners in Britain because that's exactly the same payment that was made by Britain to the slave owners was the exact payment that China had to pay Britain. Okay? So this was 1842, and these were bloody battles for opium, the control of opium. So this is basically like Colombia on steroids, like Pablo Escobar, but 100,000 times more worse. Now, I'm going to show you who the biggest drug dealer in history is, because at this time, that's the person who was the British monarchy. This is the biggest drug dealer in history, right here, because her father started the Opium Wars, and of course, she became the monarch, and that's the biggest dope dealer in history. A very short stature, a dope dealer. Not Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar was, well, he was a kid compared to this. Pablo Escobar never sent warships to another country to fight opium wars, did he? So here is the biggest dope dealer in history right here. That's her right there. And that's pretty much it for the story. So the abolition of slavery was paid by of course, the wars, the opium wars. That's basically how they got paid. And if you notice here, if you look at the timeline of this war, the first war, you know exactly what's going on. That's exactly what happened. So again, the Opium Wars paid for the end of the slavery in the West Indies. Britain never paid anything. The Chinese did. Of course, France was involved behind this, of course, with China as well. Of course, everybody's, using them for their cheap labor and growing the opium. But there was another war, the Second Opium War, right here. So if you want to read into that one too as well, you can if you want. But the more important one is the first one, because that's the one where Britain did not want to go bankrupt for the payment of these slaves to end the slavery. They didn't want to go bankrupt. So what they did is they figure, you know what, we'll put this in, pay, but then we'll start something over there and collect it from somebody else. If you look at the payment that China made to Britain, it's just too suspicious. Exactly the amount that was paid to the slave owners. That's very suspicious here. And here we go. The collection of slavery compensation, 1835 to 1843. Okay? You notice something here, right here. Look at that date. The war was concluded by the Treaty of Nanking, 1842, 1835 to 43. So there you go. There's your answer. The ending of slavery by Britain was all a hoax. They didn't want to end it. The reason why they ended it was to stop Portugal, Netherlands, and France, and also Spain as well, from expanding too much out of the British control. That's pretty much why they did this. Because the slavery never ended in the Far East. It kept going for way, way longer. Okay? So even today, as we speak, most of our products, we have to be honest about this, they are coming from Chinese sweatshops. We know that, okay? We can't be naive to that. So again, and I think that's why China has been bankrolling a lot of events around this world today, because it's their time. I mean, the time for them to come back from what they've been going through for centuries already. So there you go. That's how Britain paid for the slavery abolition. They used the Opium Wars to collect money from China to pay for it. Look at the timeline. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll be making more videos soon, more related to these historical issues here and history that has been kind of been blinded by people, so people don't know it anymore. All history has consequences. Eventually, that history will lead to other historical events later on. And if we don't understand the previous historical events, we can't understand how things work in the future. We need to go to the past to understand how things propagate. Thanks for watching. Take care and have a good day.